Good morning. I want to speak with you for a few moments today about something that's close to my heart and certainly my hands as well. And this is a project that I've been involved with for a few years. I've been an editor with the OpenStreetMap project for a number of years. And a few years ago, I guess it was in the period after Hurricane Maria devastated some of the islands and communities in the Caribbean that I was looking at different things that people were doing for the folks in Puerto Rico, and I wanted to do something too, and I'd like to do things, send money and so on, what little that I can. But as a mapper, and I had known this for some time, there's a project that's part of the OpenStreetMap just suite of activities that they're involved with, called the Humanitarian OSM team. And this is a team that has been around for quite a while. It really goes back to the period after the Haiti earthquake in 2010, about 10 years ago, and the what happened after that time. There was a huge response, a humanitarian response from different organizations, and one of them was OpenStreetMap, some folks in OpenStreetMap. And because of that action, I mean, this is just an example of what the folks in OpenStreetMap were able to do. They were able to produce the best street map of Port-au-Prince, where most of the consequences of that earthquake came for the most people. They were able to produce that map within 2 days of getting started working on it. And so out of this, the humanitarian OSM team was formed, and they serve as a link between the OSM and a number of non-government organizations, NGOs, nonprofit organizations, by and large, some government agencies in some cases. Many of these organizations you've heard of. They're big organizations like Doctors Without Borders and the various national Red Cross, Red Crescent organizations around the world that respond in times of humanitarian need, whether it's famines, all kinds of natural disasters, earthquakes, fires, droughts, tsunamis. It really runs the gamut, volcanic eruptions, and so on, and also other needs that different communities have in different parts of the world. So at any given time, the humanitarian OSM team will be working over 1,000 different projects worldwide, globally, and the OSM is a global organization. It's probably the best example of something that has come to be known as VGI, or volunteer geographic information. This is more or less crowdsourced geographic information that's made possible because of really the preponderance of digital geospatial data that's available, and concerns, I guess, about how much of this is available to the public and how much is available open and free to share. And then also the fact that there are now billions of people walking around with very precise mapping devices in their pockets, and just the availability of these different kinds of mapping devices, GNSS/GPS devices that are in our phones, and also higher end GPS devices as well. So this is something that I feel strongly about, And this is part of the content in this class now. I'm sharing this with you. So there's a page that you can go to. This is not mandatory for you to do this. However, I feel, and I've known, students at DePaul for some time. I've been here for some time, and I feel there are quite a few of you guys who you see these different skills that you're getting now, and you'd like to put them to use. And this is something that you can do. You can do it in your spare time. You can do it sitting at home. You can do it in a lab, or you can do it you can do it in your on a tablet, on a phone if you want to. I'd prefer to do it on a desktop myself. But there's a number of resources that that we can make available, and I have a page that I'm linking out of our week 9 activities here, or our week 9 content, and the page is it's really a 2-step process, that very simple process for you to become a crisis mapper, and a crisis mapper that is able to contribute to any of these projects that you may find of interest. And so when you look at this this list of resources here, first you have the OSM registration and some links that will help you understand what the OSM is, where it came from, what it is now, how is it supported, how is the data, how is the data created. There are a variety of ways to create it, including with GPS or GNSS, and also there are some online editing tools that are very similar to the kinds of tools that you've used. So you guys are skilled mappers now, and this is a chance for you to do a couple of things, to really contribute to this effort globally, and to select which projects you want to work on. Right now there are many projects that are running, and they're sorted from the top to the bottom in hundreds of pages, actually. So there's about 14 or so projects in each page, and there are hundreds of pages, so there's a lot of them there. And so they're sorted from the most urgent to the least urgent, and they're all important, right? But the most urgent and the most current projects are right at the top. The most urgent are typically ones that have happened fairly recently. So when you first look at these lists of projects, you'll get a sense for, these are the kinds of things that this organization addresses, and the things that we feel are important. And I'm sure this is shared by many of you as well. So it's a 2-step process. First, you register, and there's a little bit more here. You guys have some skills in image interpretation from earlier activities that you've worked on, and then step 2 is, and again, working through step 1. Read through all of this, because it's recommended that because you're going to register, if you get into this, you're going to register with OSM and become registered and permitted as an editor to edit the world map, to edit this incredible world map that the OSM has become, this crowdsourced VGI world map that maybe is the best world map out there. It probably is the most democratic world map, with 2 million people now, over 2 million people registered to edit on this map. That's 2 million mappers. Imagine that, worldwide, who can contribute to this map. So the first part they suggest, and this is how I started, was they suggest that you take a look at your neighborhood, where you live, around, here in Chicago or wherever it is that you live, and make some contributions to the map. Do a little bit of editing with the tools that are available to the map around the place where you live, places that you're familiar with, things that, and that's what I did when I started out. I started by looking and saying, okay, well, this is, here's a street that it's not a through street, and they show it as a through street, and let me make sure this is shown as not a through street for drivers, but also to cut down the amount of traffic of people, coming through this place thinking it's a through street because they're using Google Maps on their phone, stuck on their windshield. So that's what I would do first, and spend a little bit of time with that. And then in step 2, you go into the tasking manager, and this is where you become a crisis mapper. This is where you become somebody who's going to contribute to the OpenStreetMap and contribute to it in I think, a very meaningful way by making data that will be used by people in the field, people from organizations like Doctors Without Borders, like the Red Cross and others who are helping people in need in these locations. And when you do this mapping in these projects, in the OSM team, in the humanitarian OSM team, when you do this mapping and you publish the edits that you've made, and I would recommend, again, using the ID editor, the HTML5 editor, works very nice. You can do everything you need to do with that, and when you get comfortable with it, then start doing the crisis mapping if you're interested in doing that. And in the OSM tasking manager, this is where when you start creating these data, this stuff becomes almost instantly available to people in the field. So if there are folks in the Philippines who are there after a hurricane and they're working, trying to find survivors, they're looking for houses. The houses that you've put in there that maybe were there before the hurricane, but maybe have been devastated or flattened, now they can go to right to those locations that you've mapped within almost instantly after you've posted them, and they download those, from the either satellite or from from Wi-Fi that they have available there, 5G or 4G or even 3G connections that they have in these places. So again, this is something you can probably tell clearly. This is something I'm passionate about. This is something I believe in. And what I would ask you is, if you're going to do this, and I hope everybody does, okay, if you're going to do this, because look, when you start applying for jobs, or this is another line on your resume, you're a volunteer crisis mapper, and people go, what's that? And you can explain it to them, in the job interview, and they go, this is a different kind of person here, that takes time out from their own time to do things that are helping people in need, and doing it using a technical skill that you have now, something that you can do, right? And you can do something for good that is going to, this is kind of the classic example of acting, thinking globally and acting locally, because you're acting locally, right? You're mapping around your own community, but you're acting in your school or your work here in Chicago, and you are affecting people for good, we think. That's what we hope, right? Always when you map, that's what you hope. You can't really, once you've mapped something and it goes into the map, you kind of lose control of it. You can't direct the way that that's going to be used, and we hope that it's going to be used for good. And that's how these projects are organized. They're organized toward things that are going to make the world a better place, okay, for some folks who are in need. So, step 1 and step 2. And again, if you have any questions about this, and you want to talk about it or anything like that, please contact me. I'd be happy to, talk to you. I'll try to help, respond to your questions by email or by Zoom, or however we choose to do that. So, humanitarian OSM team, great organization, and a great subset of the OpenStreetMap community. Okay, so this is part of our course. This is part of what we're doing. You don't have to do this. I'm not tracking you to see if you do this, but I believe in it. Okay, and it's something that I think a lot of people believe in. Everybody most everybody I know at least, they want to help out and help people out when they're in need. And this is a chance to do that kind of thing, using your technical skills and using this worldwide network that we have through the internet, certainly. So OSM.